Our esteemed panelists for this session, along with the moderator, kindly grace the dais. I would request all our delegates to kindly remain seated. Kindly get settled as soon as possible. We are about to begin this session. Thank you. With the kind permission of Honorable Chair, my Lord, Honorable Shri Justice P.S. Narasimha, Judge Supreme Court of India, Honorable Mr. Justice Arun Kumar Tyagi, Judicial Member, National Green Tribunal, New Delhi, Dr. Pradeepto Ghosh, Distinguished Fellow, Earth Science, Climate Change and Energy and Resource Institute, TERI, Mr. Amandeep Garg, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Professor Dr. Arvind Kumar, Medanta Hospital, Mr. Rajesh Verma, Chairperson, Commission for Air Quality Management, Dr. Balakrishna Pishupati, Head, UNEP India, Honorable Mr. Justice Prakash Srivastava, Chairperson, and all the honorable members of National Green Tribunal, officers of the registry, eminent resource persons and delegates, faculty members, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and a very good afternoon to all. I, S. Vinita, Registrar General, National Green Tribunal, on behalf of NGT and my own behalf, extend a warm and cordial welcome in the 4th technical session of National Conference on Environment 2025. First of all, I would request Honorable Mr. Justice Sudhir Agrawal, Honorable Judicial Member, National Green Tribunal, to kindly welcome and felicitate Honorable Mr. Justice P.S. Narasimha, Judge, Supreme Court of India, by presenting a sapling and a memento. I would now request Honorable Mr. Satya Gopal, Honorable Expert Member, National Green Tribunal, Southern Zone Bench, Chennai, to welcome and felicitate Honorable Justice Arun Kumar Tyagi, Judicial Member, National Green Tribunal, New Delhi, by presenting a sapling and a memento. Next, I would request Sri D.K. Singh, Registrar, National Green Tribunal, Central Zonal Bench, Bhopal, to welcome and felicitate Dr. Pradeepto Ghosh, Distinguished Fellow, Earth Sciences and Climate Change, the Energy Resource Institute, TERI, by presenting a sapling and a memento. I would also request Mr. Vijaykanth N., Registrar, National Green Tribunal, Southern Zone Bench, Chennai, to welcome and felicitate Mr. Amandeep Garg, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, by presenting a sapling and a memento. Next, I would request Mr. Arvind Kumar, Deputy Registrar, National Green Tribunal, Principal Bench, to welcome and felicitate Mr. Rajesh Verma, Chairperson, Commission of Air Quality Management, by presenting a sapling and a memento. I would also request Ms. Fatima Ali, Assistant Registrar, National Green Tribunal, New Delhi, to welcome and felicitate Dr. Balakrishna Pishupati, Head of UNEP India, by presenting a sapling and a memento. Thank you so much. With the permission of the chair, I declare the commencement of this fourth technical session. I would now most humbly invite our moderator for today, Mr. Balakrishna Pishupati, Head of UNEP India, on the rostrum and continue with the session. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you very much. Very good afternoon, Honorable Justice P.S. Narasimha, Honorable Justice Arun Kumar Tyagi, fellow panelists, Dr. Pradipta Ghosh, Mr. Arvind Kumar, Dr. Arvind Kumar, Dr. Rajesh Verma, Dr. Amandeep Garg, Honorable Chairperson of the National Green Tribunal, very distinguished and honorable members of the judiciary, experts, colleagues from the states, students, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to be here moderating this session. And before we start, let me wish a lot of us in different parts of India are celebrating today as a new year. Today is Ugadi and it's being celebrated in many parts of India. So a very warm wishes for a new year. And for me, standing here today feels a little surreal because it was exactly 9 years ago in March 2016, I was here in the same hall, to an extent doing a very similar function of rapporteuring or moderating the concluding session of an international conference on environmental rule of law that was supported by the UN Environment Programme in collaboration with the National Green Tribunal, the Ministry of Environment and Forests, and the Government of India. So certainly 9 years is a long time to actually reflect on how things have evolved in a country like India. Let me first thank the National Green Tribunal for the opportunity to partner in this very, very important event, an extremely important event that brings together different disciplines together, the executive, the judiciary, the academia, the experts, students, and a number of us who are interested in environmental management and governance together. And at UNEP, we value this partnership and collaboration very heavily. And the outcomes of it is not only going to resonate what we would like to do or what we would like to think about doing in India, but also globally. Because many times in a country like India, a number of initiatives that happen here has a big resonance globally. And certainly an institution like the National Green Tribunal is something which is very unique. We have very few countries globally who have got such an institution to focus on issues related to environmental governance and environmental management. And certainly when we actually met in 2016, the focus of it was the rule of law SDG 16, which is very, very important. All of us are aware of it. Where SDG 16 cross-cuts a number of different SDGs in our ability to achieve sustainable development. But what's happened in the last several years is the issue of environmental justice has taken center stage in different discourses, whether it is climate justice, whether it is biodiversity justice, or any of it. And for those of you who follow some of these international or regional discussions, you realize that today, for example, the International Court of Justice is deciding on a number of issues related to climate justice. In fact, on Friday, we actually had an expert member of the UN Human Rights Commission. They have an expert mechanism that looks at what is called right to development. Many of you may be aware that there is actually a declaration on right to development. And currently the discussions are how do we make it legally binding so that it becomes a covenant. And the team from the UN Human Rights Commission was in India to discuss about the issue of human rights, right to development. And certainly the context of all of our discussions that we are having today in terms of environmental governance or management to an extent impinges on our right to development. That's where, when we look at the global discourses, a lot of time the discussions is what is the right of a country to develop in the context of managing its environment, natural resources, reducing pollution and dealing with climate change. So certainly justice, ethics, equity, are some of the buzzwords that we hear across a number of different platforms, not just at the national level, but also at the global level. And for me personally, having worked at the global level for many years and then transitioned to work in India, certainly India is an extremely sort of interesting example where the number of challenges and the number of opportunities to an extent are equally sort of outweighing each other. During the 3 sessions that we have had yesterday, focusing on air pollution, focusing on water management, focusing on biodiversity and forest conservation, we actually have heard several clear messages. We had a number of experts who actually shared their wisdom. But what actually makes it quite interesting is that if we sit and reflect on some of the elements of the outcomes of the discussions, certainly a few of these elements are very important. We seem to have, to a large extent, the science that is very clear and defined. We know what's the science behind a number of these things, the way we want to manage. We do have, to a large extent, the data and the information that actually is required for us to make decisions on environmental management and governance. We do have all the policies and regulations. India actually is a forerunner on a number of these issues. 1992, immediately after the Earth Summit, India was one of the first countries to initiate discussion on having a framework enactment, Biodiversity Act. It took 10 years for it to be enacted in 2002. But India actually had been a forerunner on a number of these issues. We do have large number of policies, regulatory frameworks, there is no doubt. We have all the institutions that are required for us to deal with environmental management and governance. We have all the expertise that countries can certainly envy. And you also have all the challenges when it comes to implementation. So it's a very interesting combination of both opportunities and challenges that we have in the country. And that's why I often say, reflecting about, how we discuss with information technology experts, IT experts, they have all the answers, but what they do not know are the questions. So certainly we are in a situation where we have the institutions, we have the expertise, we have the frameworks, we have the intent to implement, and to a large extent also the resources that are required to implement. But certainly there is something which is missing in this entire puzzle that actually brings us all to reflect today. So certainly a few key messages from the sessions, and it will be elaborated by the panelists. One key message, today we are talking of air quality management, pollution, not just in the context of it as an environmental issue, but in the context of an economic and a health issue. Very clear messaging that was actually provided. Water management, the session actually had, if there is one key message, the fractured institutional structures and the governance mechanisms that is actually creating quite a bit of a challenge. We heard the biodiversity session. We are actually investing billions to make millions, in the way we actually are looking at the biodiversity goods and services across a number of these issues. So what is important for us is how do we connect some of those dots? How do we translate a lot of these into actions on the ground? And if there is one language a lot of us understand, especially the person on the street out there, the common man understand, is the economics part of it. I think that is where a lot of these issues need to be also anchored, where it is very clear that our right to development is not the right to destruction. So certainly very, very important messages that have come out. So the questions before us are, how do we strengthen our science policy practice interfaces? How do we look at behavioral change, ensuring people are a part of the solution? And certainly what we are going to hear to the Honorable Justice Narasimha, Justice Tyagi, and also our fellow distinguished panelists here is actually a reflection of some of those key messages that actually had come out of the 3 sessions. And the expectation is that the outcomes of this session will inform, not just as the outcome of this particular conference, but also inform audience wide and out there. So with those few remarks, let me sort of invite Honorable Justice Narasimha to chair the session and also share his views and inputs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Balakrishnan. I must commence with congratulating the chairman and the members of the MGT for organizing, which I think one of the most important conferences in recent times. Environment affects all of us, and all of us are the stakeholders. We have an excellent panel today. The co-chair, Mr. Arun Kumar Tyagi, Mr. Pradipto Ghosh, Mr. Amardeep Garg, Mr. Arvind Kumar, Mr. Rajesh Verma. All of them will, apart from indicating to you the essence of what had happened yesterday and in today's conference, will also give their inputs on the basis of their expertise in the field. I would want to share with you two thoughts, taking into account the time constraint that we have. We are all stakeholders to this environment. I read a beautiful quote in my younger days. That is, a man said to the universe, "Sir, I exist." However, replied the universe, "That fact has not created any sense of obligation in me." Thereby, we are not in control of the universe. But our deeds, our actions has degraded it so much. And the consequences are on us to bear. Conferences like this are extremely important. One of the reasons is that it tells us that there is a necessity to have a collaborative effect. The convergence, so to say. The convergence is necessary for the simple reason that we are all concerned about what has happened to the environment, and that concern must translate into an idea, how to restitute it. That idea will give rise to a resolve for an action to be taken. This is reflected in many of our policies that have been made. The policies are again based on inputs of many of you who are experts in the field, who know the subject, based on scientific inputs that we have. And such policy decisions getting translated into enforceable norms in the form of a statutory provision or in the form of guidelines, rules, or notifications. Most common be the environmental notification, which is virtually the backbone today. The story doesn't end here. The next step is the implementation step. In every segment, we have human resource, we have infrastructure, which needs to be brought together, and with the help of such effort, we have to ensure that a common action is taken. This is one of the most important duties NGT does. Apart from the routine adjudicatory process that it undertakes from day to day, there is that quintessential obligation that it has. And the NGT must recognize that it is a body which is at the center, has the appellate as well as original jurisdiction, to combine all the stakeholders, all the duty bearers together, be it either in the policy formulation, which occurs in the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, coordinate and apply those policies in terms of judging and correcting whether the legislation is in line with the policy or not, and then ensure that its execution takes place. These are the practical and real problems that we are seeing. That convergence, collaboration to convert an idea or a principle to that of a legislation and enforcement of legislation, and the fourth step being that while you are enforcing the legislation, you have disputes which have arisen between the parties and to resolve them. Most crucial role in all this is that of the NGT. While I congratulate NGT for holding a conference of this nature, I am here also to remind that the crucial role that it plays. Second very important thought I would love to share with all of you is also a concern in a way. However much the policy is appropriate, however well we formulate our rules and regulations, however diverse that they are in dealing with every aspect of the matter, the execution and implementation is where perhaps we are deficient. Let us closely examine this. We have statutorily and also through the regular governance constituted regulators. We have also constituted and identified authorities under the statute who would take a decision on a particular matter. The issue today is the institutionalization of these bodies, who we call them as regulators. Institutionalization to the extent of saying that there is a statutory provision which recognizes the establishment of a pollution control board or a wildlife board or any other board for that matter is available for us to see. The statutory provision also contemplates composition, very widely worded, and then it speaks about functions, and there are also duties imposed on that statutory bodies, which are the regulators. The real concern today is the effectiveness of the regulators, how effective these regulators are. Effectiveness in the sense of institutional integrity and institutional efficiency. When we talk of institutional integrity, questions relating to the appointments at the foremost come into picture. Are they are all the posts filled, and are they able to efficiently function or not? Second, relating to institutional integrity is about transparency and also accountability. To what extent NGT will exercise that power is again a factor which goes into the account of ensuring that these institutions work effectively. We move on a little bit, apart from institutional integrity of the institutions, institutional effectiveness. How effective they are, how easily accessible they are, and very importantly, how very well composed they are, and what is the institutional capabilities. These are all factors which need to be accounted and ensured from time to time. We are already in a situation where we are facing the consequences of digression from our obligation to protect the environment. the times to come are even more serious. You all are experts in the field. As climate change is advancing with such speed, the need to have bodies which are at the grassroots level to implement them is far more important. So I'm sure that with the intervention of constitutional courts and also with the NGT looking into these matters, first and foremostly to ensure that the implementing agencies and the boards are empowered. I use this expression deliberately to say empowered. With all your experience, you know the extent to which the statute provides the power and the authority on the boards to prevent as well as to impose costs and compel implementation of certain orders. There are contradictory orders of the courts on this. They are not able to function fully. They are not able to realize fully the purpose and object of the statute. The biggest obligation that we all have, all of us are being equal stakeholders, is to first and foremostly to bring all these bodies together and have what we call as convergence need. Work with one common and a solitary mission. And secondly, to ensure that these bodies function effectively. I underline that expression, effectively. Effective functioning of these bodies is the biggest obligation and in a way, a very difficult situation. But we must take the resolve and ensure that these bodies function effectively. What will happen? The consequence of this is simple. A decision to be taken by a body which is actually an expert in the field, preempting the occurrence of an event and enforcing it, and to ensure that it doesn't lead to a situation where the damage is already done, is intended to be with them. Instead, because of their ineffectiveness or incapability, the action occurs, the bodies are not able to take a decision, the matters come to the NGT directly, either NGT directly takes a suo motu cognizance, depending on the workload that they have, they might pay a little bit of an attention. The affected parties go to writ courts, some go to the Supreme Court. So the inquiry and analysis is occurring at the top level, and what is intended to be done by the bodies who are supposed to be the regulators and functioning is being taken over at the top level by the highest court, constitutional court or the constitutional. We have reversed it, unfortunately. We have reversed the system. And in our experience, we have seen that this doesn't really work at the grassroots level. Whatever directions that may be passed by the court, you might even call a senior officer for non-implementation. The repair is only to that limited extent. But the best possible solution, in my view, is to strengthen the bodies at the grassroots level, empower them, ensure that they have the power to prevent, though they are statutorily available, they have the power to implement, and they are able to implement it. I will conclude it by saying that on paper it is there. The powers are given. Everything is provided in the rules and regulations. The ineffectiveness occurs because of non-appointment. Ineffectiveness occurs because of not having the sufficient power to enforce them. If we pay much attention to this, and through the innovative and consistent stand that NGT would take, it's the premier body for in our country. In recent times, I have said that it's not merely adjudicatory, it is also in a kind of a regulator which telescoped legislative, executive, as well as judicial powers within it. Innovatively, we need to interpret them and ensure that they become a vibrant body and ensure that all other regulators function effectively and grapple with the situation that is arising. The three topics for which we had 3 sessions, air, water, and biodiversity, very, very important topics and very innovative. I have gone through the notes given by Mr. Balakrishnan supplied about what had happened. Very, very innovative ideas which have come in, and they have reflected on the problems that have arisen. This must be a continuous affair, Mr. Chairman, that you must have conferences like this. You must invite in advance people to make present papers, focus on individual and confined smaller topics, have the best of the knowledge system on that, and ensure that it is implemented from time to time. With these 2 small thoughts, I again thank the chairman, the members, and my panelists for giving me the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for articulating some of those issues very clearly. Thank you very much. I realize that Honorable Justice Arun Kumar Tyagi would like to speak after the other panelists complete their interventions. So may I invite Dr. Pradipta Ghosh, the Energy Research Institute, to please come to the stage, please. Thank you.
Honorable Justice P.S. Narasimha, Honorable Justice Arun Kumar Tyagi, Honorable Justice Prakash Srivastav, Chairman NGT, my fellow panelists, distinguished participants. I am indeed honored by the kind invitation to me by the NGT to participate in this very important conference. My task today is to sum up the discussions yesterday in technical session 2 and suggest the ways ahead. The technical session 2 yesterday presented a wealth of perspectives and experience on the question of management of India's water resources and rejuvenation of its rivers. Let me identify some key themes that emerged from the presentations, as well as some challenges with respect to the themes. The first theme is that India is severely water stressed, with 16% of the global population and a similar percentage of the cattle population, but with only 4% of freshwater resources in just 2% of the land area. India's water situation is precarious. There is great spatial variability from Rajasthan's tropical desert conditions to the northeast states, which have large areas under rainforest. There is also tremendous temporal variability, with about 70% of total annual precipitation concentrated in the southwest monsoon months of June, July, August, September. Globally, an endowment of less than 1,000 cubic meters per capita is considered to be water scarce, and 50% of the land area of the country is water scarce. In terms of groundwater resources, 60% of irrigation is met from groundwater and 85% of drinking water, and accordingly, in many areas, the water table has fallen over the years. While in some other areas, due to efforts by the government, the water table has stabilized. Due to excessive withdrawal of water in many areas, the balance between the water table and river flows has reversed, so that groundwater aquifers now recharge river flows in many regions, rather than the other way around. These facts make it imperative that we focus on water conservation, recharge, recycle and use, and mitigate water pollution. The second theme is water pollution. A large proportion of water bodies in India, including surface water bodies, as well as in many cases groundwater, are polluted. There are many sources of water pollution, in particular domestic sewage, and of which the major part is untreated, as well as inflow of toxic chemicals from industrial sources, as well as others. In respect of domestic sewage, 70% is still untreated. In respect of groundwater, there are problems of salinity and fluoride ingress. In case of industrial effluent, there still exists a significant gap of 2,000 ETPs. Lessons for addressing water pollution have been learnt over the years, and at present there are greater resources available, as well as human resources that would enable us to address this problem more effectively than in the past. The major program of rejuvenation of rivers, that is the Naumi Ganga program, offers a number of lessons which are replicable in many other rivers and contexts. And these include addressing pollution, ensuring flow enhancement, community engagement, research, technical, social, and cultural, and making available this research to all stakeholders. In the Naumi Ganga program, the entire river basin, covering 5 states, has been treated as a single unit for planning. And creation of the Ministry of Jal Shakti to address water resources as an integrated resource has been crucial. One of the most important lessons that has been learned is with respect to STP contracts that were earlier split into construction and operation and maintenance. And under the Naumi Ganga program, the model adopted is build, operate for 15 years and transferred. This has resulted in improvement of quality of construction and bidding by better qualified parties. Performance has also improved with real-time monitoring of COD and BOD with concise data available publicly. Problems in setting up STPs, including land acquisition, due to the NIMBY syndrome and onerous public procurement processes. There are no simple solutions to these issues. The lessons of the Naumi Ganga project are replicable and may be extended to other cases of river rejuvenation in India. I now come to urban river management plans. Typically, urban river management, and we see this very much in the Delhi capital region, is characterized by multiplicity of agencies. And there is need for creation of a single coordinating agency for each urban area. And the problems include unauthorized covering of stormwater drains, lack of clearing of drains, use of stormwater drains for drainage, for sewage, and inadequate sewage treatment. While construction of a network of sewage lines for 100% sewage treatment will take time, in the interim, the approach should be to intercept sewage drains and divert the sewage flow for treatment in STPs. Real-time monitoring of flows at points of ingress of treated sewage into the rivers must be made publicly available. Reuse and recycling of wastewater is another potentially crucial area of urban water management. And several cities around the world, for example, Singapore, have minimized the net water requirements for cities by this approach. There are several challenges, however, apart from costs, including cultural aspects. One approach may be to use sewage after primary treatment for removal of odor and pathogens for agriculture by discharge into irrigation canals. The organic matter content of such treated waste water is valuable for agriculture. Floodplain notifications need to be made systematically, and the flood drains for projected 100, 50, and 25-year return periods should be mapped, and the corresponding land use restrictions should be notified, and unauthorized activities should be terminated. There's a serious problem for encroachments on floodplains and water bodies. Encroachment is a serious issue that impedes implementation of action plans. The onus of proving that a particular settlement is authorized should be that of the settlers. However, in practice, if settlements are sizable, this may prove politically difficult. It may also be kept in mind that, as in the case of forest dwellers, in many cases, multi-generation occupants may be unable to provide any official documentation regarding their status. A practical approach in such cases is to prepare and implement resettlement plans that will ensure their livelihoods and alternative settlements. This will take time, resources, besides political capital. I now turn to climate change. India's current emissions are just 4% of the global total, and the historical cumulative emissions are much smaller, much less still. Since greenhouse gas emissions anywhere affect equally the whole globe, focusing on mitigation beyond India's agreed international commitments will only lead to economic stress without any tangible environmental benefit. The important thing is to address vulnerability and adaptation. In particular, climate change will severely affect the 50% of the country's agriculture that is rain-fed. While the total quantity of rains may not change much, its distribution over time will be affected, with fewer rainy days and large gaps between rainy days. This will require supplementary irrigation and rain-fed agriculture involving considerable investment. I now turn to water conservation. While approaches such as rainwater harvesting, reuse, and recycling of urban and industrial wastewater are important, the elephant in the room is the 80% of water resources currently used inefficiently in agriculture. This is the result of a legacy of policies that had relevance at one time, for example, rice growing in Punjab and Haryana in the context of the Green Revolution, and of local political economies such as sugarcane growing in water-stressed regions of Maharashtra. While options such as sprinkler irrigation may optimize water use, there are two very difficult political nettles to be grasped. First, putting in place a pricing regime for water that correctly reflects its scarcity value and covers the levelized cost of the irrigation infrastructure. Second, changes in agricultural policy that will rationalize India's cropping patterns to be consistent with the ecological endowments of different regions. I now turn to the capacity for implementation. India's regulatory regimes in many sectors has moved far ahead of the capacity for enforcement. Similarly, when we make plans, we must, as part of the overall resource allocation, also provide for human and institutional capacity building. This is an issue that is common to many areas of public governance at the center, state, and local government unit levels. Finally, the role of forest conservation and afforestation. Loss of forest cover has serious implications for water flows into rivers and recharge of groundwater aquifers. Integrating afforestation and forest conservation into water conservation and climate change adaptation plans is crucial. Its importance cannot be minimized. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ghosh. We have three more panelists, followed by Honorable Justice Arun Kumar Tyagi to make his remarks. But then I'm informed that we really are stressed for time because we do have a small event that should be a part of this particular session, followed by lunch, and then we will have a VVIP moment. The Honorable Vice President is going to be here for the closing session. So we really are stressed on time. I really would like the indulgence of the panelists to spend not more than 3 or 4 minutes maximum, time, so that we'll have enough time for the other event, but also lunch, and before we have to hand over the hall to the security clearances before the Vice President arrives. Do apologize for this rush, but for the other panelists, I really would like to have your intelligence not more than 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, please. Thank you. Dr. Arvind Kumar from Medanta will be the next speaker. Thank you.
Distinguished chairpersons, most distinguished my co-panelists, honorable judges from the various high courts, Supreme Court, NGT, friends, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good afternoon. My task today is to give you, first of all, my humble and sincere thanks to NGT, particularly to Justice Prakash Srivastava and Mr. Senthilwell for the kind invitation. Sir, it's indeed an honor for a doctor to be standing here before the legal luminaries of the country and presenting his evidence of how air pollution is actually hurting us. I'm indeed grateful to you, sir. My task, as given to me by Justice Srivastava, was to give you a takeaway regarding air pollution, how it's hurting us, and what needs to be done. I have divided my task into 3 parts. It will be very small. Yesterday, Professor Guleria gave evidence. I will just be showing the photo parts of it, which I see as a surgeon. I'm a chest surgeon, and last 30 years, I've been operating about 600 to 800 and now 1,000 cases where I open the chest and I get to see the color of lungs. And ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you here to share with you the change in the color of human lungs that I have witnessed in the last 36 years of my career as a chest surgeon. With that evidence, I'll go to solutions because Justice Srivastava said you must give some solutions. And lastly, I'll very briefly mention a case, a historic judicial a judgment, which is now making waves across the country, which could be useful for us also. What is the color of the lungs when we are born with? This is the color of the lungs that we are born with. Nice, pristine pink. But ladies and gentlemen, what is the color that I see every day in non-smokers? This is the color. This is not a photograph from Adobe Photoshop. It's the color of the lungs from non-smokers, which I see every day in my OR. And this is a picture taken from the telescope that I see every day. Even more frightening is the next picture. This is the color of the lungs of a teenager. See the kind of deposits this teenager has got. If the teenager has got this kind of deposits, what will happen to him by the time he becomes an adult? So this is the picture that we have, the color of a non-smoker, a teenager, and this is what we have. We are born with this. This is what is becoming to our lungs today. This is what we see anatomically. Now, how does this convert into clinical pictures? Or before that, showing it from this is what I see inside, but outside we did an experiment where we put up this lung model, put a exhaust fan behind it to mimic human breathing, and few days later this is the color that it became. So this is what is happening outside, and we saw what is happening inside. And this is the kind of air that we all breathe. But it's not only the adults, it's also the children who are in their mother's womb who get affected. There is evidence now that a pregnant mother breathing toxic air, the toxins go into the blood and start affecting the fetus, causing congenital problems, growth retardation, and whole lot of issues. And when the child is born, we don't get any artificial air. It's the same air outside which the newborn also breathes. So I dare say that in a polluted city, the newborns start smoking as far as the effect on the lungs and other body systems are concerned. We did a study of over 3,000 children in Delhi between the ages of 11 and 14. We went to the schools and studied their lung function test, only to be horrified to find that nearly 27%, which is 1 out of 3 children, had spirometry-proved airflow obstruction and asthma in the city of Delhi. And this has been reported in a peer-reviewed journal recently. This is what I see. And this was the effect in children. And what's happening to adults? Very briefly, this slide shows my 36 years of experience as a lung cancer surgeon. On the left side, when I started, most of the patients were smokers. They were mostly men and in 50s and 60s, because smoking used to cause cancer in elderly smoker men. But what's happening now? 50% of the patients today are non-smokers. 40% of the patients are women who are non-smokers, and age has come down by about decade and a half. Why is this happening? Why is the effect of smoking going away? Because now it's the polluted air which is a leveler, and that's why smoker, non-smoker, men, women, young people, everybody is having lung cancer. But lungs are not the only organs affected. It enters from lungs, but after that it affects every organ in the body, because the small particles go through the lung into the blood. Heart is affected, brain is affected. Now there is evidence that diabetes, obesity, all kinds of cancers. In fact, every month there is evidence coming that more and more diseases are being caused by air pollution. And who are the worst affected? The unborn babies, the children, and the elderly. And now there is evidence to suggest that it's causing irreversible damage to the various organs of these children. Ladies and gentlemen, we eat 3 to 4 times a day. We can live without food for up to 20 days. We drink 6 to 7 times. We can live without water for 5 to 6 days. But we breathe 25,000 times a day. And if air was not there, we cannot survive without it for even 1 to 2 minutes. And there lies the solution, that having artificial means, cans of air, etc., cannot be a solution. Unlike water pollution for this problem, air has got to be clean. If we have any impurity in water, we will not let our children drink it. It's astonishing that we are letting our children breathe this air 25,000 times a day. So I would say that air pollution is not an environmental issue. It's a serious health emergency. It's a silent pandemic, if I may say. It's an existential threat to our next generation. This was the medical evidence seen through my own eyes, not copied from elsewhere. What we need to do, if we look at the sources, we all know that dust, that is dhool, and smoke, that is dhua. Whatever may be the source, it is the dust and smoke which is the cause of air pollution, and there lies the solution also. We need to tackle the air pollution at the source, not let it be dirty and clean it later. We need to have reduction in emissions and dust. I'm not going beyond that, except most humbly urging that we need to have laws to ensure reduction in emissions and dust. Artificial things like smoke towers, air purifiers, these are not solutions for a public problem that air pollution is. And lastly, a very vital piece of intervention which came from England. This is the girl Ella, who died in 2013 in London at the age of 9 years due to asthma. And her death summary said that she's died because of acute respiratory failure because of asthma. Her mother did not accept it. She went to the court and she said, I think it's because of air pollution. She fought the case for 5 years, and finally in December of 2020, the Deputy Coroner Philip Barlow gave a landmark judgment where he said that she has died as a result of air pollution. And he also said that there is lack of legally binding air quality targets and training which is responsible. So finally, last slide, sir. Finally, her death, and this is important, it's the only case in the world where a death summary was revised on the orders of the Honorable Court. From acute asthma due to respiratory failure and asthma, it was revised as air pollution exposure. It was added. It's the only case in the world. So I would like to conclude that, honorable judges, I have placed medical evidence as seen by me for the last 35 years at your disposal. As a doctor, I plead before your lordships to act with urgency because it is needed for the health and welfare of our children and our future generations. I rest my case here. Thank you so much, Your Lordships. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Arvind Kumar. Thank you very much. I think the pictures are so very compelling, hundreds of words in one picture. Thank you very much. And let me sincerely apologize to all of you, including our fellow, for the panelists, for rushing you through, because we really are stressed in terms of the time. May we have Dr. Rajesh Verma, Chairperson of the Commission for Air Quality Management, as our next speaker, please. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Co-Chair, distinguished panelists, Honorable Chairperson of NGT, Honorable members of NGT, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, time is a constraint, so I will be rushing through, cut short. Yesterday, this topic, very important topic, as highlighted by Dr. Arvind Kumar just before me, was discussed by the first session, and all the related issues of air pollution, climate change, how the health is affected, how the judicial intervention in environment protection has helped over a period of time, and the issues of relating to regulatory frameworks, the standards, the global best practices, how technological interventions, what kind of a scientific or technological capacity building, and policy changes which are needed. It's a multidisciplinary, cross-sectoral, interministerial matter which requires a scientific, regulatory, administrative, and citizen-centric approach, and it impacts all forms of life. And what is needed is an airshed approach, and we have to identify the key sectors and find the solutions, which were also highlighted. Many solutions were highlighted yesterday, and the health aspect was very greatly covered by Dr. Randeep Guleria, and also very aptly highlighted today by Dr. Arvind Kumar, and the technical aspects were also highlighted. So without going much, because that will be a part of the proceedings in any case, we know that air pollution is a persistent and it's a global health concern, especially the particulate matter, which is confirmation of local emissions as well as the outside regional factors also. And climate change is closely interlinked. Clean air is an economic asset, as we all know, but polluted air is a major health concern, as very aptly highlighted by my previous speaker. We have put in place many policies, regulations, judicial interventions have also taken place over a period of time, from time to time. But what is needed, a holistic and integrated air quality management approach based on strong scientific insights through data analysis. What we need is identification of sources. We have to prioritize actions and policy interventions along with very, very strong enforcement. That is the key in this entire governance and monitoring for the air quality. We have a program, National Clean Air Program, which was launched in 2019. The progress was also highlighted yesterday, so I'll not go into the details. But what we need to ascertain is contribution from various sectors. We need a comprehensive emission inventory for different regions and emissions from not only local but adjoining areas. And we have also to take into account the topographical, meteorological and weather-related phenomena which determine the overall dispersion. It is not only the emission which is important, it is the dispersion and accumulation of air pollutants. So a very robust approach, having emission inventory supplemented by a source apportionment study is what is needed, and what is needed an airshed approach for dealing with this overall phenomena of ensuring good ambient air quality. We need a very robust and reliable monitoring network so that we can have targeted actions, and we have to also learn from global best practices and strategies to mitigate the ill effect of the air pollution. Generally the prevailing this adverse air quality scenario, not only Delhi NCR, but it is the entire Indo-Gangetic plain. It is a IGP phenomena, especially during the winter months in the northern region of the country, with meteorology and weather conditions turning very unfavorable towards dispersal of the pollutants. So this is a phenomena. In CAQM was established in 2021 by an act of parliament. And since that time, for the Delhi NCR and adjoining areas, this commission has been functioning to address the issue. A policy was devised in 2022 to target various sectors. Many statutory directions and advisories have been issued for abatement of industrial pollution, for transition to the clean fuels, for fast-tracking the natural gas infrastructure in NCR, for abating even air pollution from the DG sets, and also on the vehicular pollution front, number of actions including taking care of the end-of-life vehicles, older vehicles, because they actually significantly have higher potential for pollution. So there has to be measures to ensure that we move toward higher standards. Then having the clean public transport, including from the Delhi, NCR and adjoining areas, and also augmenting, actually fast-tracking towards the cleaner modes, specifically e-mobility, and augmenting the infrastructure for that. Then there are issues. Then the second important factor after the vehicular pollution is the dust from roads and open areas. So there are dust control and management cells in all the Delhi NCR areas for all the road agencies. A standard guidance framework has also been developed for end-to-end paving and greening of the roads. Then a very important other important factor is the dust from construction and demolition projects. There is a mandatory regime which has been put in place. Another important issue which was highlighted yesterday and which is of very high concern is the stubble burning. Although the incidents reported over a period of time, last 4 years, have decreased, but still there is a lot of effort needs to be done, especially in Punjab and Haryana, and especially for ex situ management of the paddy stubble burning, because it can be used as fuel for boilers, for brick kilns, thermal power plant, biomass. There are many uses, CBG, bioethanol, I need not elaborate. And for... So, I would conclude...
Dr. Verma, please.
Okay.
We just have been told that we should conclude it as soon as possible.
I will conclude in a minute, just max. I would only conclude by saying that it's a very complex problem with multiple sources operating at different scales under the jurisdiction of multiple agencies and requiring different strategies and remedies for mitigation. We need to unambiguously acknowledge the adverse impact of air pollution on our health and tackle each of these sources with a sense of urgency. The policy of tackling air pollution needs to shift from reactive to a more systematic, focused, and quicker and effective in the long. So basically, I'll conclude by saying that we need a mission approach for tackling this urgent problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Verma. Thank you very much. Colleagues, once again, to an extent, I'm at a bit of a receiving end in terms of the time constraint. Of course, we have Dr. Amandeep Garg. It won't be fair not to give him the floor. I'd like to invite Dr. Amandeep Garg for his remarks, followed by Honorable Justice Tyagi to conclude this session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Chair, Co-Chair, esteemed panelists, Lordships, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and privilege to be part of this esteemed panel. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Chairperson and members of NGT for providing me this opportunity. I have a rather challenging task of summarizing the key suggestions and takeaways from today morning's technical session on food, forest, and biodiversity. I will also like to take this opportunity to briefly highlight the importance of environmental impact assessment process in mitigating the impact of developmental projects on biodiversity and share various technological interventions and initiatives taken by my Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to conserve and protect the biodiversity. I have tried to summarize the recommendations of morning session into five broad areas. First is the need to strengthen the forest and biodiversity conservation by enhancing forest regeneration, controlling invasive species, ensuring sustainable management of natural resources, protection of biodiversity hotspots, wetlands, eco-sensitive zones must be prioritized, along with stricter regulation of timber harvesting and non-timber forest products. Second, improving the environmental governance and compliance through stronger enforcement of environmental laws, better monitoring of deforestation and habitat destruction, and integrating ecological safeguards into infrastructure and development projects. Greater coordination among agencies is essential to ensure effective policy implementation. Third recommendation pertained to enhancing community participation in conservation efforts by empowering local communities through sustainable livelihood programs, expanding joint forest management initiatives, and promoting ecotourism. Public awareness, environmental education should be strengthened to encourage responsible conservation practices. Fourth aspect was about leveraging technology and scientific research by integrating GIS mapping, remote sensing, biotechnology into forest and biodiversity management. Strengthening botanical gardens, seed banks, conservation research institutions will help preserve the genetic resources. Aligning the national efforts with global commitments such as Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and Sustainable Development Goals will provide a strategic direction. And the last recommendation from the lessons which I have drawn out is adopting climate resilient and nature-based solutions through large-scale afforestation, ecosystem restoration, and carbon sequestration programs. Protection of wetlands, which serve as a critical ecosystem, and freshwater reservoirs must be a priority. This broadly summarizes the recommendations from the morning session. Briefly about some of the aspects which I would like to share here. The concept of environment protection and resource management has traditionally been given due emphasis and woven in all facets of life in India. These age-old practices teach people to live in perfect harmony with nature. Nevertheless, changing lifestyles, rapid urbanization, industrialization, and infrastructure development have resulted in increasing pressure on natural resources, leading to environment pollution and degradation. Consequently, rules, laws, policies on environment protection were introduced. One such effort is the Environmental Impact Assessment, or EIA, which is a tool to identify the environmental impacts associated with development activity and to help provide necessary mitigation measures. It was started in 1994 when the first notification came, followed by a 2000 notification which is still in operation. As per this notification, there are 39 categories of activities or projects which require prior environmental clearance, and the environmental clearance has a very rigorous process having 4 stages from screening to scoping to public consultation and appraisal. This process is now fairly well established, and it rests on 3 pillars of statutory, administrative, and procedural frameworks. The entire process has been digitized through online portal Parivesh, which has functionality of GIS based decision support system. So the appraiser at the time of appraisal, at the time of evaluating the project, these tools are available to the decision makers to understand the impact of any project on sensitive receptors like proximity to forest areas, wetlands, water bodies, rivers, etc., and hence plan the mitigation measures at timely. Another very important aspect of EIA process is the terms of reference, which is prescribed at the stage of scoping. And the EIA report preparation, which covers biodiversity analysis, land use pattern of study area, and study of the satellite imagery. So the impact on terrestrial and aquatic flora and fauna, along with mitigation measures to be adopted, is prepared as a part of the environment management plan at the time of preparation of EIA report. And all the necessary safeguards are inbuilt at the time of granting environment clearance so that the impact of a development project is mitigated to the large extent. I wanted to talk about various initiatives of the ministry, but because of paucity of time, I am cutting it short. I just wanted to say that there are many landmark judgments by Honorable Supreme Court, Honorable High Court, and Honorable NGT on the issue of conservation and protection of biodiversity and forest ecosystem. These landmark judgments guide the ministry in taking appropriate steps to address the challenges faced by these ecosystems. As we move forward in future for a sustainable development, it is imperative that we strike a delicate balance between economic growth and environmental conservation. The Ministry of Environment remains committed to strengthening environmental governance, fostering community participation, and leveraging scientific advancements to ensure that our rich natural heritage is preserved for generations to come. Once again, I extend my gratitude to the organizers and all attendees in this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now request Justice Tyagi to conclude this session, please. Thank you very much. And before do that, there is an announcement. There is an exhibition that has been put together by the students. So during the break, please visit the exhibition. It's quite an interesting one. Over to you, Dr. Tyagi.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Namaskar. Honorable Mr. Justice P.S. Narasimha, Judge Supreme Court of India, who is chairing the session, all my worthy co-panelists and moderator, Honorable Chairperson of National Green Tribunal and all my colleagues in NGT, Honorable Judges from Judges of High Courts from entire India, all the distinguished guest officers from the ministries, from district judiciary, other environmental authorities, statutory bodies, teachers and students from educational institutions, and all other invitees. My task was difficult, but it has already been made very easy by Honorable Chair and other my co-panelists and also the moderator. And I'm also at ease while realizing that I am sure that all of you know what I am going to speak, and I'll not take very long. Will try to be very short, but still to do justice, I'll say a few things. First of all, I want to express my gratitude to three. First of all, to forefathers, including the framers of the constitutions, because of whom we enjoy the liberty, justice, liberty, equality, and all what we have developed, socio-economic development. My second gratitude to Honorable President of India, who told her about what are the values, what her parents inculcated in her, the respect for nature, and compassion for living creatures. And third, I want to express my gratitude to NGT also. Here I want to say that the vision of our forefathers, we have also to contribute, and inspection, introspection, and interaction are the tools for development of vision. And this 2 days long conference makes invaluable contribution to the same. I am thankful to Honorable Chairperson and entire registry headed by Learned Registrar General of National Green Tribunal, who deserve all praise for the initiative taken and duly implemented meticulously with dedicated efforts. Before proceeding further, I want to I want to put 3 questions, and these 3 questions are inspired by a story written by Leo Tolstoy, the 3 questions. 3 questions we have all considered during these 3 sessions. These 3 questions: what are our environmental problems? Why should we deliberate upon them? And what are we required to do? By summarizing, our problems are that our air is polluted. It is a silent pandemic and health emergency. Failure to combat air pollution also accelerates, as Honorable Justice Jyotimala Bagchi said, climate change, which results in human displacement and also human deaths. It also affects animal life. It also affects our flora and fauna, even agricultural yields. Water pollution, same, our water is contaminated, our rivers are drying up or dying, or already some of them have disappeared. Our water bodies are polluted, groundwater is contaminated, groundwater is depleting. Our forests are, we suffer from loss of forests are dwindling. Our ancestors, again I am saying the forefathers, have made laudable efforts. They have made, as I said, our ancestors, we have that rich cultural heritage, respect the nature and protect the environment, and have compassion for all living creatures, and that our constitution mandates the state also, and it also mandates the citizens also to discharge these obligations. Now, I will be very brief. Briefly, I am saying that the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was passed in 1974. The Forest Conservation Act was enacted in 1980. The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was enacted in 1981. And the Environment Act was enacted in 1986, long time back. The problems were comprehended, attempts were made to provide the solution. But 2 things I want to highlight, and that is as an illustrative and representative. The subject is very wide, but I am referring to 2 cases. One, Almira H. Patel, this was writ petition number 888 of 1996, in which cognizance was taken by Honorable Supreme Court, orders were passed, and it was transferred on 2nd September 2014 to the National Green Tribunal. This was regarding solid waste management, and OA number, original application number 606 of 2018, dealing with various aspects of compliance with solid waste management rules, is still pending before National Green Tribunal, and periodically the matter comes up before the tribunal, and all the authorities and the governmental agencies and authorities are making their efforts. Another is Paryavaran Suraksha Samiti case. In that case, order was passed by Honorable Supreme Court giving directions for setting up ETPs, CETPs, STPs. That order had the deadline, and that matter is also now transferred to NGT, and it is also monitoring that. We have to reconsider all these. We have to put questions to ourselves: how long these environmental resolution issues will take, and what efforts we have to make. The first question that I have already referred. Second question I have also referred. Third question, what we have to do. This conference, all the speakers in this 2 days long conference have highlighted. They have given the solutions, suggestions, and I am briefly referring to 5, which will broadly cover all these due to paucity of time. As Honorable Justice P.S. Narasimha said, our concern should be translated into ideas leading to resolve to take action by framing and implementing the policies and enforcement of environmental norms. So we have to enforce the laws, environmental norms which we have strictly. That is the only way of ensuring effective resolution of the problem. Second, efficacy of statutory regulators with institutional integrity and institutional efficiency, with transparency and accountability is to be ensured. Then third, the best practices adopted in other parts of the country, I am saying intra-country and inter-countries, should be adopted. Fourth, multiplicity of the agencies and it should be the problem caused by multiplicity of the agencies should be taken care of by providing an authority to common authority for requisite policy implementation, monitoring, supervision, etc. And fifth, all these legislative framework, policies, government schemes should be reviewed from time to time. And one of the best methods for such review will also be, and also feedback will also be such conferences which we have. And I feel that such conferences should be more frequently organized, not only by National Green Tribunal, but also by Ministry of Environment and Forest, and also by CPCB or other agencies. And all the stakeholders should come together, and the message which I want to say, this is not only the message of this conference, but this is also the message of our Constitution. I am saying it is a message converted to obligation that we must protect and improve the environment. And with that, I thank you all for giving me, thank you.